Hello everyone. We're just going to wait another minute so you can watch us dick around before we actually get going. And then we'll start with the questions that were voted the most, and we'll work our way down slowly but surely. And I guess, We're just going to wait another minute so you can watch us.
Yeah, mute your laptop.
Yeah. This is our first go, so be patient, be nice. We'll do what we can, and feel free to ask questions as we go along. We have several screens set up around us with just about every chat we have, so we will be paying attention. Also, there's a thunderstorm going on right now where we are, so if you can hear too much ambient noise, let us know, and we will close any windows that have managed to stay open.
Let's just check, is the audio good for everyone in chat? It will take a minute now for them to answer, but just make sure we have enough gain on the microphone. But our test indicated that it should be okay. I just can't mumble.
Yeah, I'm here to slap him into submission if he doesn't speak properly.
Okay, audio is good. Just waiting for confirmation. On Twitch, on YouTube, it should... we can hear the thunder, yeah, but audio is fine. Great.
I'll go close the window, just in case.
Ambiance. Oh, some people want to rain and thunderstorm. John.
It's too late.
It's too late. We will dive heat now in this apartment. All right.
Yeah, once I was up. Right, so basically, welcome everyone. Welcome to our first Q&A. We want this to be dynamic, so if there are any questions that you have as we go ahead, feel free to ask them on any of the chats, and we will do our best to respond. If you want extra clarification on something, also please do ask. The way we're going to do this is I'm going to be asking the questions, and mostly Jay's going to be answering. There are a couple where I'm going to jump in, but for the vast majority, I'll be asking the questions. Jay will be answering them, and we will start with the questions that you guys posted on Discord. Pretty much Discord. So I guess if we dive right into it, the question that seemed to be the most popular was, what do you wish the community understood better?
Yeah, I had to think a long time about this, because ultimately the community is amazing, and whenever I've had difficulties or rejected a feature because of the technical complexity, there's always been support. And also when I introduced when we introduced subscriptions, because of the plans to make this a livelihood, everyone was very supportive. People are so in general, very supportive. So there's nothing to complain about, or I wish that people understood better. Kanka can only progress with feedback. So whenever you have feedback, just spam us. Because that's how we improve features, or we communicate better, or we just make Kanka better for everyone. If everyone's using it and not saying anything, then we're making new features and kind of blindly. So feedback is always great.
The one thing I will say, because we did a tiny bit of prep, was you guys are very understanding when there's only a very small minority of players who want something, and I think that's something that we really appreciate. Some features are very dear to very few people, and we do try and accommodate as much as we can and try and develop things that will accommodate the most people. Sadly, that's just function of not having infinite amounts of time. But we really appreciate everyone's patience as we go through this process and as we refine Kanka slowly but surely into something that really everyone can connect to and can use in the best possible way.
Do we want to jump to questions in chat as they come, or go at the end? There's only one so far from
I think we'll keep that one for the end. If questions are related to what we're saying, we'll give it more of a deep dive. Otherwise, we'll keep it for the end, just so we kind of have a list of questions and we kind of just like run through them. I feel like it's probably a better way to do it.
But I'm noting down the questions on my piece of paper.
So, right, second question, second most upvoted question. What is a hidden feature or helpful feature on Kanka that you feel is underused?
So let me switch scenes. And oh wait, this keyboard is on the other computer. The best hidden feature is the FAQ. Because a lot of emails we get and questions are stuff, wait, I'm in French, let me switch to English. A lot of questions we get are already answered in some way. Some of the questions aren't up to date anymore. For example, can I upload maps to Kanka? It doesn't mention the new maps module, but a lot of things are, the things we get most frequently, they're covered. And I think since we've added the FAQ and keep updating it, it definitely helps reduce us having to answer the same emails over again. What else did I? Another great one is, a lot of you already know relations between characters, but that's just something I wanted to show again. If you go under, if you have a character, for example, here Aaron Barr, every entity has a relations submodule. Wait, this is a Mac, so I have to scroll up to go down. And here you can add relations to other characters. This can be for characters, families, locations, organizations, anything. An item can be, I can add an item, let's take a charcoal skull, relations, and this item now has a relation to Veronica. For example, here I can type in previous owner. For example, that's important, or creator, or the person who found it, or the person who destroyed it. You can add colors if you're a visual person, so you can click color orange, and attitude, which is something which comes up a few times. This is just when you have several relations on an entity, it will default the order from descending order. Yes. So lowest number is usually a negative relationship. So here, since she was the previous owner, we can show she has a -50 because she didn't enjoy this item. Wrong mouse. And there will be a full tutorial once added for relationships in depth. Don't need to go into every field, but one other important one, if I go and edit it, I can pin it, which means it now appears here directly in the main entity information box where I have this information added. So this is great for families. If you have families who are feuding against each other, you can say put them as rivals and pin them. So directly when you're looking at a family, you'll see, this is a rival family of family XYZ. I wrote something else. Inventories, yes. The same, we get this question, how can I manage inventories? On a character, for example, or location, if you're building a shop. Let's do a shop example. Let's take the Black Whale, which is a tavern. And every location, every entity has, or most entities have an inventory subpage, or I can then add, this tavern sells, I don't know, Oberystone. They sell 2 of these. The position is, I don't know, for example, if it's in the front store or if it's in the back store and the characters, your party members need to negotiate with the NPC to get access to it. You could describe it here in description. Currently on sale, for example. Or description, you could put the price. So you could create the inventory of a store this way, just have it easily accessible. And then last feature, which is I'm also really happy about, is the campaign dashboard, which you can customize. Mine has several main NPCs. It has these are all pinned notes or notes attached to the dashboard. I have my main entities, which is just a link to the most important locations or NPCs of the campaign and all the character players. I have the recently modified. I have my hidden notes. These are private notes so my players don't see them. These are like my plot points for the chapter. I work in chapters when I'm world building or creating a story for my players. And if I go into the dashboard setting at the bottom, any campaign admin has access to this. And here I can reorganize them. I can put the calendar now on this side, and I can add a new widget, for example, a new preview. I want the black whale, which is the location we just edited, and just make it small. Save. Now the calendar is on this side, black whale is down here, and when I go back to my dashboard and I scroll down, the calendar has now changed positions with the recently modified widget, and down here I have the black whale, which I can click. And these previews also have, for example, if you link a quest, it will show you a small icon saying the quest is complete. If you link a character which is deceased, it will show the icon, so directly you have just a few bits of information visible. Yeah.
Cool. I definitely learned something. So now if we move on to the next question, what do you know now that you wish you had known when you first created Kanka? And Jay and I had very different answers when it came to this. One of my personal bugbears, especially in the initial phases of being onboarded, was just how many of our emails were bounced or marked as spam. And actually a user recommended we use this. I'm not the technical guy. I don't exactly know how it works, but like a DMARC, and that solved a lot of our problems. And that has really allowed us to sort of be whitelisted everywhere, essentially, and our emails go through. Just to put things in context, initially our emails did not ever go through to Hotmail or Outlook inbox. That's just, we were just blacklisted. And I really struggled with that as a concept. I felt it wasn't good enough for our users, and that's something that we really needed to solve. And I guess that's something that neither of us had any experience in beforehand, and that's one of the things, personally, that was my number one wish we'd known earlier. Jay, if you want to...
Yeah, the database, which is how all the information of a campaign is saved on the server, I would have done it quite differently if I imagined there'd be so many different entity types, or just the way features interconnect with each other, especially later when I enabled that you can change the entities. For example, if you created an item and you realized, oh, I misclicked, it should have been a location to switch it. The way the database is built just meant that I had a lot more work. And so yeah, that would have been different. I also think when I first introduced relations, instead of having I'm going a bit technical here, but instead of having a relations entry in the database, I had character relations. So characters could be related between themselves, but not to items or locations. And locations could be related to other locations, but not in all directions. And that was fun to then fix and redo. And that's just, yeah, because the use case evolved, and it made more sense later to allow it for all directions.
There was also something we discussed, which was the importance of the landing page. You guys may have noticed, but in February, late February, we just completely changed it. And I think we may have underestimated before that the importance of like a crisp, clean landing page and the effect that has on search engines. Neither of us really come from any background that, I've had to learn up a lot of these things, but initially neither of us has any kind of marketing, SEO background, SEM, and I think that's something that we do wish we'd known. We also did think about talking for a second about monetization in this particular segment, but I saw that there was a more recent question on Discord about monetization, so I think we'll just keep that for the end, unless you want to add something else.
No, just we had a question from, I'm going to butcher this name, Vatroslav, who asked which database management system we're using. We're using MariaDB 10.1, I think. On the old servers, it was MySQL 7.5, and on the new servers, since there's my database replication, it was just easier to set everything up with MariaDB.
Nice. I guess we can move on.
And as a present for chaos, I should continue saying widget a few more times. So we'll add a widget which adds widgets to your dashboard, just for you.
You know, I really want to say that neither of us are native English speakers, and that is 100% true, but it just doesn't sound that way. So we can only get away with so much. Next question. Do you have tips regarding actually remembering and incorporating all the stuff you thought up and put in Kanka?
Yeah, let me switch the view again. So this is when you're creating locations, for example, and you have to remember on all your locations to put population or crime rates or just small snippets of value. This is why we created attribute templates. So let me... Oh, mostly correct pronunciation. Nice. So an attribute template, I can create one here. It's let's create one location. Oops, wrong keyboard again. Basic location. So I'm going to create a attribute template called basic location, and add a few attributes which I want when I'm creating a location. For example, I want population. I want it's pinned. I want government type, that's how you write it, pinned. And I want summer weather. Doesn't make any sense, but maybe it does for you. I'll save this attribute template, which is now here. Now that doesn't do much, but when I'm creating now a new location, I can, this is covered partly by attributes tutorial, say basic location. This is a bad example because actually there's an even better feature for this. So let's say all of your locations you want these three attributes created. So I'll go quickly back to my attribute template. Yes. I will edit it. Come on. And choose entity type. And I'll say it's location. So this means whenever I create a new entity, a location, these attributes will automatically be added to it. I click save, and I create a new location. So now if I go on my attributes, they are already here. So I'll be reminded to put information on them. And this works either when you're creating a new location with the normal interface, or if you're using the quick creator. If I create a location, call it Q&A test, save, and go to it. The attribute's already here, so when I go and edit it later on, I'm still reminded, oh, I have, because of the way you're building your world, these attributes are still here. So these are quick reminders. And if I put now population 500, government type yes, and summer weather thunderstorm. Oops. Go and save. They are now under the attributes, and since they are so pinned, they are so here.
Do the attributes update on entities when I update a template? It's a very good question.
No, they do not at the time being.
I feel like we're going to add that to the backlog.
I think it's in the backlog. It's just something I want to look at when we do the marketplace, because then it will make even more sense, which we can talk about closer to the end.
Cool. Well, I guess let's keep powering through this.
Yeah.
What app or tool are you hoping someone will make with the API?
So the API was built for people to build crazy things or things that I technically can't because of my own limitations of what I know and don't know. For example, something which comes up a lot is a relations explorer. So if you have a character with lots of relations, to be able to see how is this character like a tree, to show all the different elements. And if a character is an organization, they will also show on this interface the people in that organization would be related to this character. So a relations visualizer kind of interface. I've tried building one about 2 years ago. After 10 relations, it crashed Chrome. So it was clearly out of my league. Yeah, it didn't work out. So I'm hoping someone can, and people have showcased building such a tool, but then went quiet. So I'm sadly don't know if what's with that. But if people build cool stuff with the API, they already have the whole data structure to build information. So then it's even easier for me to implement it then directly natively into Kanka, because there's less work, because the values, if you're referencing a character's name, it will stay a character's name. So it's a lot of work already done. Another thing which I think would be cool with attributes and with characters, if an API application would generate like a PDF for 5th edition or Pathfinder or Black Hack or whatever kind of system, that you could, through a third-party system connected to the API, get all the attributes from a character and the background information and the abilities, and build a character sheet or the inventories even. That would be very cool. And then even if someone builds such a thing, we can then build the API, adapt the API to be able that the API directly uploads that PDF onto the entity in Kanka. That'd be the kind of thing which I don't play enough systems. I just play 5th edition, so building such a tool for several systems, it just makes little sense for me because I don't know them. It's a lot of work. And lastly, random generators. There is one for characters which was built nearly 2.5 years ago, and it's a mess. I haven't updated it since. I don't like random generators, so that's the kind of thing where with attributes again and with the API you could build a random generator, which would be not fairly easy, but easy-ish.
Nice. If we move on, the next question is, what feature do you want to add, but no, you shouldn't? This is a great question, by the way. A lot.
So things I would like to build or redo, but it would just be a massive headache and it would be weeks, if not months of work, would be redoing the permissions engine. It's only on the 3rd iteration, but it's inherited of, and I fixed it every time I updated the way you can set permissions on entities, on roles, on users. It's already very complex, and the code it works, but it's a lot of copy-pasted code. It's a lot of if-else statements. I've optimized it a lot, but there's still ways that I can make it way easier. But I know if I touch that, that's going to be a lot of work for me to rebuild it and then to test it properly. And then also the QA team will also have lots of work to make sure it stays the same, because we don't want to deploy a new permissions engine and suddenly all your users see all your private DM nodes. That would annoy quite a few DMs.
Permissions is something that seems to cause a lot of headaches. We keep trying to refine it. We'll get there to like the perfect system where everyone understands it immediately. But yeah, it's every time Jay starts thinking about it, I can see the pain. The only time the pain is more intense is when he's talking about calendars. I think that's what I say.
Another thing would be the dice roller, which was built hastily for one of our first patrons, and it just doesn't really do much. It's also deprecated, so it's not active on new campaigns. But doing a proper one would be nice, and also one where you could either attach it to a character, so when you're looking into character, you could directly have on the character view a list of dice rolls you could do based on abilities, or on any page just to roll a dice if you're on a map and you just want to roll a dice, 2 d20s or 3 exploding d6s from fate or whatever, having something which is directly in the app, which just makes it even easier, would be nice. I'd love also, on more technical terms, to redo the whole interface in Vue.js. I started playing with Vue.js last year. The conversations module was redone in Vue.js so I could build some know-how. There's another module in Vue.js. I can't remember which one. I'd love to just build it just so it's not something very visible, but it just make the app faster. But it's a lot of work because it's redoing every piece of interface. And lastly, I'd love to build, but I know it'd be a lot of work to do properly and probably need moderation tools. It's in the application a messaging system. We have a conversations module which kind of works, but I'd rather do one more where you can message people in the campaign privately without having to go through conversations, or message if you see a cool campaign that you can message the creator if you want to ask questions to that person. And having notifications, of course, would be great. Just a way for users to message themselves privately or in groups, just to again simplify ideas exchange for people who just use Kanka and then want to then use a Discord and another system and a forum and Roll20, and just kind of merging it all together. But that would be nice, but it's a lot of work, especially for moderation then, because we need a way to then report users, stop users from spamming if that happens, because that's not something you want to build after people have complained. That's something you want to build from the get-go to avoid a huge can of worms.
Yeah, please do. Great. If we keep going, we're making our way. We're making decent progress actually. Though we may try and speed up slightly so everyone gets to watch as much of it as they want. If we move on to the next question, what is your favorite part of the world building process?
So I love the way I world build or prepare my sessions is, like I said before, I use chapters for my sessions. So I'll imagine what's the next chapter of the story, who will be the antagonists, who will it involve, but more what's the problem. That's point A, where the first session of that chapter starts, or with foreshadowing. What's the problem, and then what's the ideal the state of the world where that problem is solved, and that's up to the players to then find a solution. I avoid thinking of solutions, and I love during sessions when they say, oh, I'm sure it's that NPC, then either I will use that NPC if I hadn't thought about it, or subvert the expectation and add red herrings for that NPC so they think they've been smart and actually no, but just because I listened to them, and then use that what they thought about. Or yeah, if they think of something cool, that will become, or something which makes sense, that will become then the solution to the current problem they're solving. So that's what I love, the back and forth between myself and the players, listening to what are their ideas, what they think is the problem. Sometimes I realize that explains a situation badly, so they come up with solutions which make no sense, and then I know, okay, I've miscommunicated. So then I can either go back, say, oh, sorry guys, the explanation was wrong, or reuse that the way they understood it, then change the plot line. But since I only have the current situation and the goal, where there's no longer this problem, it leaves me a lot of flexibility to use what my players think of during the sessions, or even writing me privately, or to use what they think might be what's happening to then influence what's going to happen. Which also another thing I love is slow reveals, where our session 1 to 3 just plants more seeds, and then 20, 30 sessions later, or even 100 sessions later, if I get that far, which I haven't until now. Just use little hints I've dropped, and then suddenly do a reveal. I love when when they realize, oh, the NPC they've been running after, or the item they've been wanting, it was in their possession the whole time, with this information which they went far over and beyond to get this information. They already had it. I love playing with my players that way.
Bit sadistic.
And yeah, letting my players figure out what's the truth is, like I said before, they can just brainstorm and use what they think of as what I'm going to use as the reveal or the thing they need to do. Since we have time, one of my last main chapters was all about hag children. They knew there were about 1,000 hag children approaching the age of 14, which in Dungeons and Dragons lore, when they're 14 or 13, they switch to hags, and before then they're children. And I had no idea how they would solve this issue, and then they came up with all sorts of crazy ideas. Each character had kind of their ideas, so I listened to what they thought and then used that, allowed them to explore with various NPCs if the way they thought or brainstormed between each other, if that could work. World building for me is using what my players come up with. That's the nice part.
Making others do the hard work. If I quickly address Vatroslav's question, that has pretty much been our thinking for now. So for those who can't see the chat, talking about not creating a new messaging module and instead integrating with other systems as a better option. And that has been our current thinking, has been our thinking full stop. And for now, it seems to be the best for everyone. Indeed, we're probably not going to be able to build a messaging system from the ground up that would be able to rival. We do kind of brainstorm it every now and then. It's not our number one priority. It might become, lots of lightning in the background all of a sudden. It might become a priority at a later point in time, but for now, yes, we're very much going down the integration route. If we keep moving forwards, what is a good/best practice on creating relationships, both negative and positive, for individuals, families, and organizations?
So Chaos wants to switch to Thunderstorm live stream.
Okay, well, I guess we're just that interesting.
It's actually calmed down. I was just wondering if we could open a window again, because I don't see any rain.
Don't make me get up.
Okay, I'll answer this question now. I'll get up before I melt. I'm also drinking tea, which probably wasn't the smartest idea. The question, good practice for creating relationships, both positive and negative, for individuals, families, organizations. So this I kind of quickly showed before the relations module, but just again, wrong keyboard. So locations, I think, typically if you're creating a kingdom or an empire as a location, if I go on Arden, I think I have it here in relation, nope, wrong tab. Relations. So I will create for locations, kingdoms, relations which describe allies and rivals. These were created before attitude and color was added to the application, and this is where you can play allies. Typically, if I want to read it faster, I'll just add a green color, and attitude I'll leave blank because I don't use attitude. And then for rivals, red. And you can do the same kind of thing with characters, red. Rivals between characters or allies or family members. Just decide on a color code. For example, with family, you want to make it purple or yellow or whatever. And just try and be consistent. Don't hesitate to create a note in your campaign for which colors mean what to make it faster. And try and create relations also for your players if they have access to your campaign to be able to explore a character. If I will go on Zook has 4 relationships, and this is one of my player characters. So I'll create just information: who's their boss, their friends, from the backstory, previous mentor, who they're working with, who they're working for, family, if any, childhood friends. Just a way to populate that information, to kind of explore it. Yes. So just I don't necessarily have a best practice for relations. Just create lots of relations. It makes it easier also in the future to remember, because you can write it in the entry field of a character. For example, here I said that he's under the patronage of Aaron Barr, and that goes only so far. Relationships, you can have the colors, you can have the pinned relations. It just makes it easier to then navigate that information or to find it faster. If I'm going on a character and I know they have a rival, but I didn't write it in the entry, I forgot, then just have a relation so I'll know in the future. And also for my players, for example, if during a session I'll mention a character from their backstory and they don't remember who that person is, then I can just tell them, go and look into Kanka, go on your character and check your character's relations. So just, go crazy. You can add as many relationships on every entity as you want. And same with organizations again. Organization families, they have rivals, they have, for example, if an organization split off from another organization, you want that probably in the relations, just to be able to remind yourself quickly, this is a X sub-organization of the previous organization. That's it.
Go nuts.
Go nuts, yeah.
Do your thing. If we move on to the next question, do you plan to release more tutorials about using Kanka, perhaps to spotlight some little known features for DMs or players? I can actually take this one. The very short answer is yes. We have an ever-growing list of tutorials we want to get to writing, and it just doesn't seem to get any shorter. We really need to take some time and just like handle the list, whistle it down. I think we have about 15 to 20 right now on the list.
16.
16.
And yeah. I've had more ideas today.
Exactly. So yes, we are trying to boost everything to do with tutorials. We also want to rework some of the video tutorials we did. We made them earlier this year, and I think a few things have changed in Kanka, but also our understanding of how to make these videos has also evolved. And we're probably going to move away from these 3 to 4 minute tutorials to like 30 seconds, 1 minute, 1 minute 30, just kind of blast information and that's done. And then sort of supplement that with live Q&As as we're doing now for sort of deeper dives into specific questions. But so yes, long story short, we are looking to increase the number of tutorials, yes. Yeah,
another part we want to focus on is also on the blogs tutorials, because written tutorials are easier for people to pass, and also much easier for us to update and add images when it makes sense. That's one of my difficulty when doing the tutorials, not only writing the script, but also figuring out what to film. And often it's just moving my mouse, scrolling on a page, click on a button, waiting for something to load. And that's dead time in the tutorial, while in a text we can just highlight with red rectangles around the buttons, this is what you need to click, or just focus on what's important. So definitely do more tutorials. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, time is our biggest constraint systematically. But we do what we can, and we are working on it to make it pretty quick. Moving on to the next question, which is actually something we've already kind of spoken about, which is, are there any plans to make relationships viewable, like a map or a web of interconnections? As Jay was saying earlier, it is something we hope someone will do on the API. We haven't really had time yet. And as Jay was saying earlier, last time we tried, he made Chrome crash. So
want to avoid that.
We'll see. It's something we've thought about. It's something that like definitely is on the radar. I can't say when. as we were saying in the API section, it's probably something that's better left to the community rather than us.
Yeah, it might also be about someone recommending a plugin, a JavaScript plugin, which will, because I used one 2 years ago, which was recommended by a few people, and that's the one which just, it didn't work for me. I couldn't wrap my head around how to make it not crash and to be usable. So sometimes it's just someone creating an example and us saying, that plugin or that technology we can use, I can learn it easier and then implement it. It's often seeing a working demo, or even sometimes creating a mock-up of how it should look will allow me to then wrap my head better around how such a feature should work and should work. Who knows?
Nice. Yeah. If we move on to what part of Kanka you're most proud of or not too fond of. And when it comes to being proud, I think Jay and I were perfect agreement. It's pretty much you guys. Like, the community is incredible.
Yeah.
There's just no way to put it in other terms. I think my first sort of wake-up call when it comes to that, my personal experience was when we had, in early May, we had that unfortunate loss of data, and the response from you guys was absolutely incredible. I credit Jay for his continued openness and his continued communications, and honestly, the way everyone seemed to handle it and take it was irreproachable. I think that's the one thing we're the most proud of.
The community being understanding and also pushing us to build a better application, to build more features, also supporting us when we introduced subscriptions or making it our job. Quick, they like us. Cyberbully them to change their mind. That won't work. No, it's just when I started building Kanka for myself, I didn't expect it to become this, and it's because of you guys, because you guys loved the application and then wanted to help me at first with server costs, and then getting better servers, and then now making it my job. It's still can't believe it. It's still very weird to wake up every morning and say, I'm my own boss, or you guys are my boss. I don't know how it really works. But it's
I think they are our
bosses.
They
are. And something we're not too fond of, I have a love-hate relationship, which is with calendars, as probably a lot of you know. Calendars is a feature which is never ending in feature requests and complexity, and also it's not something that I use myself in my world building, so it's always been kind of obscure what people want, how they want it, and also it's a lot of it's the biggest problem is it can get very complex with requests. I think of intercalary months, which don't really work as a month but are extra parts of a month, and then creating the interface so that it renders everything. It's always been a headache, and especially bugs in calendars. I know there are a few still open, which I'm just too traumatized to fix at the moment, because I know I'll spend probably 3 to 5 days just digging through the code, trying 20 different setups, building 30 calendars with recurring events in all directions, just to figure out under which condition, if this moon is a full moon and then it's on the 5th month, which is intercalary, then a recurring event in that case won't appear. And it's just, it's I'm always glad when I'm always nervous when calendars are community vote option, because I know it will be voted for, but I'm always glad when it's delivered and I can then move on to something else which I enjoy more. And something else which I touched on before, it's sometimes feature requests have a lack of clarity, and that I think I've become better at asking more questions or understanding better as people use the application and the same questions come again. Then I can say, oh, this feature might not be needed because you can already do it with this feature. But sometimes I get feature requests which are in the backlog now since 2 years, and I have no idea what they're supposed to do, and I don't want to just archive them, and sometimes they ask from people who are no longer using the app. So yeah, that's something I continually try to improve, is asking more questions to better understand what people want, or asking for feedback. That's something I try and get better at before starting to build a feature, just making sure, asking questions, for example, with timelines, discussing a lot with the elementals and the QA team. What exactly are the use cases? How will people use them? What do they want out of timelines? What if the world has 2 moons? You can have 50 moons in your world. The page will load for a while, but you can add as many moons as you want.
You made me giggle, Jan. I'm not gonna. I could just sense the trauma on the side of the table. And
no more calendars.
Yeah, nice. We're going to try and go slightly faster through this because we do want to reward everyone for their patience with putting up with our first QA, and we do have a few sneak peeks at upcoming changes for Kanka for those of you who've been very patient so far. So those will come at the end. Don't worry. We have. It's not all just having to put up with this. But yeah, if we keep on moving on, is there another use for races? I have only seen in public campaigns just as a tag for characters.
Yeah, so races it's badly named. It was thought of as races for like 5th edition, but we'll probably be renaming it into folk, the same way Wizard of the Coast is renaming races into folk probably in the next update. It's really more of an idea for folk, for monsters, for creatures, anything which isn't a character which the players can necessarily talk with. So for your gelatinous cubes, they could be a race or a folk, a monster. It could be squirrels. If you have 6 variations of squirrels in your world, you could have each of them as a folk, and then have them as the parent folk would be then squirrel, and then you have grey squirrel, orange squirrel, rainbow squirrel, and I'm out of examples. So it's definitely for more creatures, monsters, folk, not folks. Yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, basically anything which doesn't build a civilization, or you can't really interact with unless you're using a spell like Speak with Animals, could be, animals, monsters, whatever is in the character, but exists in your world, and is sentient to some degree.
Now, we have another question about players who want to run a business in the game, specifically a bar, and wondering how you could get to that.
Yeah. So that's the example I showed before. If I go back on the black whale, using the inventory module, where you can allow your characters, if your players can edit the entity, they have access to the inventory, and there they can add the various items in your world. And this might be 2 tiers. For example, if you wanted to say that they sell cloth or rope or that kind of stuff, it might be a bit hardcore. In that case, you could use entity notes, where they could just type in what's for sale, or directly in the entry field. Another way you could, if they're running a business, you could use journals, where you could create a journal as a log for your business. So for example, sales on the keyboard, sales day 55th, 56. No, that's a bad example. We have candidates. So sale log, where you could type business sales, and there you could create a location. So black whale, an author, if this is one of your characters. So let's do Adam Morley, and here you could say sold 5 pints for 3 silver. Sold 2 crossbows for in exchange of a thing, and you could go on, and then end of the day inventory. You could create a table where you list, or your players list, what item condition, writing in Italian, so beer amount, oops, like 6 gallons, and condition cold. And you could do, and then you could attach a calendar date. Where you could say this was on your calendar on year 1025 on the month of Tunai, current day 12. It just lasted 1 day, and this is your shop. So I don't know, maroon, and save. My players will be very confused why I just created this in my campaign. No, it's private, it's fine. And so if I go back, then you can go through your calendar. I clicked the wrong link. And there you'd see on the, so I'd have a sale log here, which would then go to my journal. If your characters want to have a business where they would like per day in the calendar or per week or whatever, have a rundown of what's happened to the business, you'd have it that way. And if I go onto that event, since I added a author, I can then see it in my author's journals, and I can see, this is a sale log of this date, and then it would populate with all that you've sold. Did I remember to switch the camera? Yes. Yeah. That went a bit longer than expected, but that's it.
So there you go, how to run a bar. Wish it was that easy in real life. As the developer, are there any major stumbling blocks you encountered along the way that you advise others to avoid?
Yeah.
Very good question as well.
The first I've already mentioned is building features without understanding the need or the use case. Dice rolls, conversations, relations at first, where it was only per entity, intro entity. Now one is spreading yourself too thin. Don't try and build every feature that everyone requests. Try and concentrate on what adds value to the most amount of users of your product or your application or whatever. Because as a single or solo or 2 people development team or whatever, you'll have more requests than you'll know what to do with. The backlog for Kanka is full of stuff which were asked and have been there for years because there's just not been enough support for a feature, and there are always more features coming, and I've gotten better at rejecting features which I don't follow my vision for Kanka, but there's definitely enough features, too many features and not enough time that I want to build. And slow but steady, sometimes I've rushed out features without properly testing them, and that's why we introduced QA, or just make sure, do it at a smaller pace, but make something good rather than just spewing out features and hoping it sticks. One thing is avoid over-promising and under-delivering, like promising in 1 week this new feature will be done, or in 2 weeks. Wait till you're happy with the feature, that your QA team has approved it, before saying, it will come out in a few days, or yeah. And one advice is avoid lack of, there's no such thing as under-communicating. Over-communicating, yeah. Well, there is, we don't want to go into personal lives, but like on the product and the way you're developing or the progress you're making, the users of your app or whatever will always be happy to know that you're doing progress, even if it's small progress, even if you've just changed the color of a button or changed the way a form is displayed. Communicate that, show to your users that you are making progress on the application, making it better, even if it's not ready, if it's not live, but show that you're working on things, that that you're not just doing nothing, basically.
Good. we're getting into slightly more sort of Kanka as an entity, as opposed to deep down questions about how it works now. And so the next question is kind of similar in the theme. What has it been like to start and manage a personal project of this scale? And when we were sort of discussing answers to the questions that we had already been asked and that had been voted on, Jay and I were kind of brainstorming what words were most appropriate, and I think the best we can do is just like throw a bunch of words at you, and it might give you kind of a glimpse. But essentially we're talking about exciting, frightening, exhilarating, exhausting, nerve-wracking. It's a lot of good fun, and like I don't know, like, I mean, we talk about this regularly.
Yeah.
It's quite fun. It's a lot of work. It's also a certain amount of responsibility to you guys, of course. But I mean, I don't know.
At the end of the day, I'm always excited to wake up in the next morning thinking, what will I build? As long as it's not calendar features, it's just all. Yeah, it's a dream come true. I've always wanted to. I always knew I wanted to have build something and then be able to share it with everyone, and I didn't imagine it would be this, but I'm glad it is, because I really enjoy working on it, and I'm also always very scared when I deploy a new feature or an update, or it's exciting and frightening because it can come, it can go, but as long as we keep doing hopefully great work, people will stick around and keep supporting the application and help it just get better and better. Yeah.
I think neither of us regrets embarking on this journey, even if sometimes, we're just a bit scared. Also, Chris, I mean, going back to our previous statements back, the FAQ is possibly the most important thing that we have out there. You'd be surprised at the amount of emails I answer that I could just answer with a link to the FAQ.
But that question is not answered in the FAQ, is it? Can I have more than one campaign in my... can I have more than one campaign?
Is it not? Oh my god, is it not? Did I just make a fool of myself?
Well...
No, it's the first question there. I knew it.
I don't even know what we have anymore.
Okay, moving on. Any tips and tricks for other developers out there hoping to make a living off their ideas? And I think from what we discussed, that kind of joins in with what we were saying earlier. The number one thing is always offering a solution to a problem. Kanka started because Jay had a problem that he needed a solution to, and he couldn't find something out there that was adequate or appropriate for his problem, and so he built his own solution. And turns out he wasn't the only one with that problem. I think that's the crux of offering a service. That's the crux of starting a business off an idea that you have. Is if it solves something for someone, and hopefully more than one person, then you're onto something. Other than that, we're going back to what we were saying earlier. Take it slow. Don't rush things. It took a while for Kanka to develop into anything that could have. Before Jay and I even started having discussions about turning this into sort of a more proper business, there was a good year and a half before we even ever mentioned it, and about 2 years before we actually started taking action. So don't be in a rush. Like, it's not something that happens overnight. And the other thing I personally would add is you can't do everything on your own. No one is a one-man army or a one-woman army for that matter. And I think that if you can, even if it's just friends that can perhaps give you a hand with something that they know that you don't know, or just like family, friends, the internet. So many of you have helped us with so many things, and we're always very grateful for that. And I think you'd be like that is also going back to our favorite thing being the community, and I think it's surprising how much people are willing to give you of their time if they really like what you're doing, and if they believe in what you're doing, and if you have sort of the same belief and you're building towards the same thing. So don't do things, try and avoid doing things alone if you can, and never hesitate to ask for help around you. I think that's my take on it, at least. I don't know if there's
try and focus on solving one problem well. It's again, don't spread yourself too thin. Try and have a problem that you identify and try and solve that problem well, and then you can expand into something bigger. When I started Kanka, I wanted to manage my characters, locations, and families. Those are my 3 starting entities, because that's what I was using my Wikipedia for, and I just wanted a better way to represent that information, and that's what I concentrated on the first few weeks I built Kanka, was those 3 core elements. And once that was figured out, started adding more stuff as people requested more stuff, which also made sense.
I'm also going to bounce on Chris's question about opening up more volunteer positions for. So the question is for things like answering email or updating the FAQ, people who've been vetted, as he says. Yes, we discuss regularly how we can involve you guys more. Ultimately, if you guys are in this and you like how this is moving forwards and you like the way this is moving forwards, you're more engaged, you give us more feedback, it works better for you, works better for us. There are limitations to what we can do and like where we can onboard people. Discord has been a very good example of where we have onboarded people. The QA team, of course, is volunteers, and we're very thankful for their time. There are certain things, answering emails, I'm a bit more reluctant to let anyone else do that, because ultimately, if you have a bad experience, it would reflect negatively on us, and I'd rather be completely in control of that. It is a sort of an official email address that we have that I wouldn't feel comfortable just kind of, even if I really trust the person, I still think it's, I don't know what your take on email specifically, but updating the FAQ, yes. I guess if you have any suggestions, like you can always spontaneously tell us. We don't have like a FAQ management position, as it were. We just kind of, when something comes up a lot on Discord or via emails, we try and add it to the FAQ, or if it's already there and it hasn't been picked up on, we try and clarify it. So it is a sort of in constant evolution, I think is the best way I can say that.
And the FAQ, the way it's currently implemented, it's in the code and it's translated by our community translators, but we write them in English and in French, and then the community translators translate them into their respective languages. So we don't really have much oversight on that, because we don't speak all the languages Kanka is available in. So we trust our translators to be faithful to the original answer or question.
Exactly, Petroslav. Like, if anyone wanted to add something, or even like, I mean, we've said this before, if you want to write a tutorial for the blog, just contact me or contact Jay. We're very happy to publish whatever you've written, as long as, of course, it makes sense within the scope of Kanka. But there's no limitation. If you have something that you feel should be answered on the fact that we haven't addressed, feel free even just to tell us what it is. And then, if you don't want to write the text yourself, if it's something that we feel really should be on there as well, we will take care of it ourselves. This is sort of like a collaborative. We see this very much as a collaborative process between you guys and your needs and what we obviously can't think of everything, but we try and listen as much as we can.
And going back to tutorials, that's something where I'd also love for people from the community to join, to be added to the blog, to write tutorials, just because, again, it's time consuming, and it's something which someone who understands Kanka, make a few screenshots, write some text, that's something which can be easily outsourced, I guess, or the community can either come up with ideas, or I have, like I said, a long list of tutorial articles I want to write. That's something where we just maybe have to reach out to get some people to do that.
Yeah. You'll probably hear more from me concerning this, actually. Made me think about this a bit more. Moving on. Better calendar. Have you considered pooling powers to collaborate with Adam Oreston and his fantasy calendar? I'm going to start by saying a word about partnerships in general. We like the idea of partnerships. There's obviously we cannot do everything. Kanka can't single-handedly solve everyone's problems, and there are certain things which we're just not going to be able to do as well as others. We did, for example, our first partnership and only for the moment, is with LFGM. I think Jay's about to, as I speak, is about to show us a few, well, the website at least, if we ever get that. But basically the idea with LFGM was that we don't really offer a solution for coordinating with your friends or with your players outside of Kanka. Like, there's no way to send mass events, there's no way to have a calendar with your actual events. You have a calendar for your world, but you don't have a calendar for the real world. And so, because that's not something we particularly had in mind or that we were really thinking of doing, we figured that would probably be a good call for a partnership, because LFGM is a pretty cool website. You've got quite a few options. We've created links so that you can have your calendar appear on your campaign. So there is at least the beginnings of a partnership there, and we're looking to expand as you guys give us more feedback and as you guys use it more. Specifically about the fantasy calendar, we already have a calendar, and I think we don't want... I'm not saying no, I'm not saying yes, but I think we would not want to partner with someone who does something that we already do. The overlap doesn't seem to make sense to us, at least, because we'd be competing against each other in a sense, and I don't know that either they or us would find that particularly helpful. I'm not personally familiar with Fantasy Calendar. I don't know if you are.
Clicked a few buttons, but that was it. But for calendars, I'd rather, since you already have a module which already does stuff, and even if I hate to say this, I'd rather people send feature requests for improvements, which makes sense for Kanka, than try and replicate what a competitor does. Yeah. That's about
so open to partnerships. The calendar, as I say, and as Jay says, we're not entirely sure that it works for us or for Fantasy Calendar. Like, it's not just about us at the end of the day. And another question, and then we'll move on to the final two on Discord. And the first question at the real beginning about expanding payment processing. Do you GM sessions in your free time? And if you do you use Kanka to organize your campaigns? And that is a great example of why you should read the FAQ, because it's in there. Yes.
Like I said, I built Kanka because I needed it for my GMing. I needed it first for myself, and then because I also wanted to be able to link my players to I couldn't link them to my Wikipedia and have private information, hidden information. So that's why I built it for myself, and I average 1 to 3 sessions per month on average. During COVID it's a bit less, but last Christmas, New Year, 2018, 2019, I think in 2 weeks we played nearly 10 times with my players, so we were playing every day. And I have several groups, so it's always with one. Every DM knows the difficulty of planning a session when you have several groups and people all around. But yeah, I built Kanka for myself, and I still use it when I DM. I was playing on Friday. Yeah, Friday I played a session, and Kanka was 10 tabs of Kanka was open the whole time, because that's where I have all my notes. That's the only place where I have notes, except on these bits of paper, where I'll just note down interesting things that my players did during the session, and then type it into Kanka afterwards, if I remember. But otherwise, yeah, I use Kanka all the time.
I'm personally not a GM, but I do use Kanka for the novel I've been working on for my entire life. And I'll probably keep working on for the rest of my life. But yeah, I don't GM, but I do use Kanka as well. Now, if we move on to the Blaze questions.
Yep.
What is the long-term vision for Kanka? And what do we hope Kanka could become in our wildest dreams? That is...
Yes.
Yes, exactly. We're also going to try and keep this a bit short, because we're
going for an hour.
It's been for more than an hour, and we don't want everyone to fall asleep. But
Ark just woke up.
Sure. What is our long-term vision, Jay?
I would love to be able to build the app more, and to ultimately hire a few people on the team full-time to help me with coding, to help me with just bringing out features, because I can only work so many hours per day before going crazy.
I try and stretch that a bit.
So that would be, I'd love to have a team of 1 or 2 other people working with me to improve Kanka in the code, or to build features. I think that'd be like really cool, because I have experience from my previous job where I managed engineers and developers and teams, remote teams. So it's something I've already done. I really enjoy the interaction of brainstorming with other people, because at the moment it's not just me and Discord figuring out what this feature should do, but then the actual code, it's just myself and my keyboard. So that's something I really enjoy, and just being able to bring out more features and just grow the app to be. I'd love for it to be like your one-stop app for world building and DMing, be it to have in-game also time. So we talked about maybe communications, messaging in between your users. So it's just everything is in one app, and you don't have to go open Discord. But then I think if you have audio and a webcam, that's just not something we're going to build. I don't see ever. So you also have another support for that. But just building an app which is really makes it easy to use, having a new design with better workflows, making the app better for new users, and just seeing it grow. One thing we've talked with the onboarding team is having contests and have more community events. I think Q&As. I think try and do one or live stream once a month would be great.
If the feedback we get from this is positive, we'll definitely keep it 1 a month and go from there.
Yeah. So long-term vision, just involve the community more, and then with contests, and then with on the community votes, the previous community vote, there was an option for marketplace, which was badly communicated, but the idea is to allow people to build like packets with like characters, locations, or a quest, or some random generators, and kind of allow them to build that without having to be programmers, but to be able to create content which they can easily share on a marketplace for free. That people can then plug into their campaigns. If you see a cool NPC with a backstory, with a picture, or a plot with a few characters, a few locations, and being able to quickly add that to your campaign. I'd love to build that kind of feature, just to allow the community to building an app which would allow people to world build and DM better by also using ideas from other people.
Sharing your creativity, essentially, putting forward what you can do, and just allowing other people to have fun with what you've come up with, I think is what we had in mind when we came up with the marketplace. But obviously we weren't very good at putting that forward. I think that's not the message that went across.
And a wild dream would be like having a sort of partnership with Wizard of the Coast to be able to integrate like 5th edition character generation, or importing directly races, or that kind of stuff. It's very difficult. They just partner with D&D Beyond, and that's about it. But being able to have support, or even if it's for the open license of 5th edition or other systems, having them more integrated, either as attribute templates or character sheets, or the kind of modules you have, being able to say, I play Pathfinder, okay, then we'll just already add a few or remove a few modules which make sense or don't for your campaign. I'd love to build something in that direction, but again, in more direction world building, like having prompts on your dashboard. Hey, this location you created a location, but you haven't indicated what's the government type. You created a kingdom, but you didn't indicate who is the ruler. Kind of pushing you a bit to think about creative things to add into your campaign or your world. All long-term goals, and I'd love to add these little bits just to make it more fun to use.
I think the point is we have endless ideas, and we'll keep this going as long as we can, and we'll see where this adventure takes us.
That brings us nicely to the next question.
And the sort of final question within the pre-typed questions, then we'll move on to Lincoln's question on Twitch. But before that, what monetization options have you considered? We all know and love the fact that Kanka is free, but if you work full-time on it, you need to live from something. That is a very good point. We are currently living off pasta. It's great, I love it. No, jokes aside.
Yeah, we had noodles.
We had noodles.
Yeah.
We had noodles. They're pretty good, actually. We've discussed a few moving forwards. I know that the most likely to come soon. I know that Jay has always been very anti-ads, and I think that's a philosophy we're probably going to stick to for now, with the minor exception of non-logged in accounts. That is probably going to be the biggest change in that respect in the near future. We just really want to encourage people to log in, and if they have an account, to log in. We're going to keep it completely ad-free once you're logged in, but the idea is just for make sure people log in, essentially.
And just an extra, this is not, because often sites will do this to be able to better track their users. We don't do any tracking ourselves. So this is just to encourage people to create an account, which will inspire them to join campaigns or create campaigns if they don't want to see ads.
Yeah.
That's the only motivation.
Yeah. No, we're not very good at tracking over here. It's probably a good thing, I think. Other options we've discussed, which you will probably see at some point in the next 6 months, are merchandising. So we are going to probably start a store at some point before Christmas with a few basics like mugs, t-shirts, whatever.
Onesies.
Exactly, onesies. Onesies is probably going to be one of the big ones, one of the big sellers, I can imagine. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. That's one option as well. We may try and do a bit more sort of YouTube/Twitch streaming, see if there's any demand for it. I think to answer that question is we're exploring a few options. We haven't yet sort of established a clear plan of what. As I say, the first changes will probably be the merchandising and the ads for non-logged in users, regardless of subscription status. Those are going to be the first two things, and we are considering other options moving forwards.
Gazo asked for...
It was for monetization, yeah?
Yeah.
Are you going to support more payment methods, which I guess kind of ties into this? Amazon, Maestro, etc. Maestro.
Isn't that just in Switzerland?
Yeah, I think it's just Switzerland. Yeah, I mean, if you're using Maestro, I'm sorry. There's not much we can do.
No, we use a third-party provider for payments because we don't want to have to deal with storing your credit card information, billing your cards. That's a whole business. So we use Stripe.com to handle that, and we kind of look what they add as possible options and what a community uses. If a community says, I'd love to have a subscription, but I can only use this one option, and we'll look if it's available, and if it makes sense to add, then we'll add it. I don't think we'll be accepting Bitcoin anytime.
No, I'm not big on that. But yeah, we look to expand whenever we can. If there's a very strong demand for something, we do our best to integrate it. And I guess, yes, we don't have any immediate plans to expand payment options, but as I say, we're open to requests. I know that a few people really are keen on PayPal. PayPal, sadly, is not compatible with our current payment system, which is Stripe, as Jay was saying. We may use PayPal for sort of unique circumstances where people really don't have any other choice. But yeah, I don't know that I can give you a straight answer as to what, when, and how. We're open to ideas, just unlikely Maestro. If only because I hate my own country.
Lincoln06 asked, what is the best way to manage, in your opinion, multiple campaigns being run in the same world? Campaigns sharing major characters and locations but taking place at different times. So since there is no duplicate campaign feature, what I usually recommend is to creating your main campaign and then creating for your NPCs and your locations or whatever, and then using tags. I have several campaigns run in the world, but at different times, but also on different areas, so it's a bit easier. But if I wrong keyboard, switch back to wrong mouse to my world, I'll go on Nix. So this is a player character, and I've given her a few tags. Players, to quickly find my players. Kimali Uprising, which is the name of the adventure, and Ankatring, which is the name of the player. So I'll use these tags and tags whatever is relevant to this character or to this campaign using this, so I can quickly find the information. So for example, in Kimali Uprising, I have all my chapter notes, I have player characters, I have characters from their backstories, their families, plot lines, all the session notes I take, they're all in here, etc., etc. Family names of families of characters which have importance in the story, and yeah. And then in my journals, it's the journals. I will use 1 or 2 letters of the campaign name. So if I go here, I have DD for one of my campaign names, and on the next page I'll have KU for Kimali Uprising. And I will prefix all my session notes with this so I can quickly find it when I'm searching. So I'll take KU, wrong keyboard, 04, it will come up. And if I just type 04, it will show me 3 from various ones. So that's just a way I organize, get the information. And as you mentioned, timelines, which is coming out probably tomorrow, will help with that, where we're able to create a timeline per campaign to remember the events which happened in the campaign separately from the other campaigns.
Which brings us to the most exciting feature we should look forward to in the upcoming update.
Jan had a good comment, calendars. This is also a good way. Duplicate your calendar and then have one calendar per group. And then you can pin all of your calendars onto your dashboard and then just give the permissions to the calendar to the various roles so that only the players in role, create a role per group. So create group A, group B, group C as role, and then give your calendars access to only that role, and then on the dashboard only the calendars they have access to will be shown. So you can also, so you as a DM will see all the calendars on your dashboard, but the players will only see the ones they have access to. Sorry.
No, not at all. And so I think that brings us pretty much to the exciting features coming up, which is also the final reveal, where we will show you a few things that we've been working on.
Yeah, so as mentioned, timelines, which was voted on the last community vote, is going to appear. So timelines is a new entity type below calendars, where you can create a timeline. You can give it a name, a type, an entry, standard stuff which you always see, reverse error order. That's important because when you created your timeline you can add errors. I'll go and edit a existing timeline to show this better. So errors. I have here on this timeline 3 errors. After conquest, age of conquest, and before conquest. And if I go and edit one, I have a few options. The name, the abbreviation, an entry field where I can also mention stuff. So I can still go and mention a character or whatever. I won't actually save because I'm using this to do a print screen later. Starting year, you have the error, and this is just a number field where you can put whatever. So it can be this, for example, the before conquest is anything up to the year minus 60 is considered before conquest. And then I've added age of conquest, which happens between the year minus 60 and 100. And then the after conquest, which is 100, and it's open-ended, it's still ongoing. And if I go and look at my timeline, it will show me my after conquest, which is the current one. where I have my description and I have my elements of my timeline. And this is, I can then add a new element to the timeline, give it a name. For example, this is the Q&A live stream. It's linked to the entity. It doesn't have to be linked to an entity, but let's link it to Zori. And here, blah, 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 timelines, yes. And a mention. Just for good measures, we'll mention myself. A date, well, I can type in anything I want. So Sunday, yes. Position, which will be added in the last position. I can give it a color, which is the small, I can't see it on here. I can give it, let's give it pink, and let's give it a icon, a gem. No, let's give it no icon so I can show the difference. Let's do add. Now it's added down here. Oh, encoding error, I'll have to fix that before releasing it tomorrow. So I have a Q&A live stream with blah, blah, blah. The mention also didn't properly work.
So maybe Tuesday, I think is what they're saying.
And here is the pink bubble and the icon. If there's no icon given, it uses this default hourglass icon, and otherwise we'll use, for example, here I put another icon in the field, which works the same way as map points, where you can also have custom icons. Why didn't the mention work? That's not important for now. I still want to try it.
While Jay's playing around with that Blaze, they will not be, as far as like from the conversations we've had, unless Jay's decided to change things in the meantime, they are not linked. We don't want calendars and timelines to compete, basically.
Exactly. Calendars, it's all the stuff. It could be any stuff. It could be the birthday of a character. It could be the day it rained a bit more, or there was floods, or there was a shop got broken in. That's the kind of things you can do with reminders, which have on timeline and calendar. But timelines is more for the big events of your world. So if you've created events, you can still...
After the thunderstorm, the ambulances.
It's been very quiet this evening. It's the first one. You can still add a event in here. I don't have an event on the QA server, but if I go on this entity, which we link to Zori, I now have a timelines submenu where I can see in which timelines is this entity linked. And it directly links to the either to the error or directly to the elements. Why didn't it work? Yeah, I still need to fix a few bugs apparently, but those are timelines.
Yes, exactly, Blaze.
Yeah, timelines. Yeah, are the defining events of your world. So. Or of your campaign, but like, yeah, we don't want them. We wanted originally to use reminders and to generate them, but then it didn't make sense because then you were limited on the entities. And the way it's built now, you can create as many timelines as you want. You can add elements related to any entity. You can go nuts. You can do a timeline for a character, for a family, for a location, with all the events which are important to that location. You can add a timeline for your player group, for whatever. So you can create this. We're hoping to see lots of timelines created, which are like the defining elements either of your world, if they're a general timeline, or of a specific entity.
Nice.
And the next thing we wanted to quickly sneak peek.
Yes, this is my personal pet project. You have no idea how much I've been pushing hard for this. But we've been working on something, I think the best way I can say is it's pretty sexy.
Yeah. So we've teased that we have a designer helping us with a new interface, and we've started implementing the first part. I've teased this as Project Freya on the Discord. Freya being a Norse goddess of love, fertility, war, but also of beauty. And we think this is very sexy, so that's why it's called like that. And this will be not definitive, but I'm still finishing implementing the work of the designer, but this will be the new sidebar in your campaign. It's a bit wider, it's much sexier. The campaign switcher on the top right is gone, it's now here, where you can switch between your worlds or create a new world. And it implements the picture in the campaign picture up here, so it's nice and sexy.
Click on this one.
If I switch on this one, oh, it's the same picture. Wait, can I edit this campaign? Let me select another picture. Just so we can show the difference. Let me use, yeah, I don't know what this is. Oh, this is small. Yeah, there's still a few bugs. The text isn't perfectly shown. And then in the drop down, if I go back on Thalia, this is running on my local machine, so it's a bit slow. Yeah, you see the image is here, and you can create your new world. And we now have a separation of the world and your I'm going to use the other mouse. The campaign. So anything which is general to your world, characters, location, maps, etc. that's now in its own block, and we have a new campaign block, which is your quests, your journals, your items, your events, your notes, and the other stuff, tags and attribute templates. And here would appear conversations and dice rolls. And also we changed a bit the icons, and on any page you now have the quick creators down here, so it's easier to quickly click. This will also be improved. This is not final. So yeah, that's what I've been working on most of the week.
Yeah, it's looking good.
And one change is a quick link will now always be directly visible. So it won't be so confusing, your menu links or favorites or whatever we end up naming them in the end. So Q&A demo. Position doesn't matter. Entity. Let's send it to the timeline. Cool. So now your quick links are directly at the top. So it's clear your users don't have to figure out where they are. They are there.
Yeah, I agree. It is looking hot. I'm so excited about this new UI, by the way. I'm so excited. I cannot understate how happy this makes me. We're picking up on a couple of questions here. Blaze, any UX lessons have influenced the change or just pure UI? Admittedly, I don't think either of us really knows. I think the designer that's working with us is also a user of Kanka, so I think he probably does have some user experiences in mind when he does this. But I mean, I'm not privy to his thought process. We just liked the look of it, and the layout did seem to make sense in the sense that it makes it easier to see, to use, and makes it more intuitive. So I guess, yes, there are UX elements, but I couldn't specifically pinpoint to lessons that we've learned in this process.
Yeah, user experience is just taking the campaign switcher out of the side, top right, it's a lot of questions come, how can I create a new campaign, how can I switch campaigns? This will be clearer because you see the name of the campaign, you see the image, and you see the drop down. So that we believe will be, it's a big improvement, and you directly have the last button, New World. And also if you're following public campaigns, they will also show here under created worlds, there'll be public campaigns, I don't remember text, and they'll also be listed. So you'll have it's more visible, let's say it that way. Also from the UX, he had us change a few of the icons. For example, journals has the old notes logo to better represent events, have now bold, and calendars have no longer the sun and moon symbol but the actual calendar symbol. Notes have an actual book, and they're more to know anything which is a note, you just plonk in there. So there's been a few changes. I guess that's UI and not user experience as well, because you have a better understanding directly from the icon what they do. Another change from the UX we're going to do is when you're in the character view or character, the quick creator will default to a new character, but there will be a selection option on the right of this button where you can select what kind of entity you want to create. So just you're creating a character, you need to create another character, just click new character, bam. You don't have to do 2 clicks anymore, because that's apparently that's what he recommended.
So yeah, I mean, as a quick answer to that final question about the coolest thing we've seen someone do with Kanka, I'll admit I don't really go check other people's campaigns out that often, so I don't know if you've seen anything that you particularly like.
One thing which I didn't do, I still don't do, but I should do more, is using tags. I know Chaos is a big Chaos. What's the number again at the end? Why don't I remember this? Chaos OS is a big fan of tags and use tags for entities. He uses a to-do tag on entities which he's created but hasn't filled out. Just using tags to quickly find information is something I didn't think of when I built tags. I didn't imagine myself using them, and now I do for my different campaigns. My different campaigns have tags, and I try and tag as much as I can just to quickly find or filter the information. Maybe not coolest thing, but I'm still blown that there's a campaign with 241 users in it, which gets used every day apparently, and it just blows my mind to have 200 users, over 200 users in a campaign. I'm surprised the interface still works, because I have not tested the various UIs for that kind of users. I've done optimization knowing that there are people with so many users in a campaign. For example, if you want to bulk edit permissions, it used to be preloaded, this interface in the page, which means every time you loaded characters or whatever, this page was already loaded with 200 characters. So I've just now done it that it actually calls it in the background when you actually click, so it doesn't have to generate a list of 200 players with 4 drop downs per player on the page load to increase performance. Yeah,
I think someone was doing really impressed me. I had an idea about doing sort of like adventure style books where you choose an option and you go to a certain page, and he wanted to use Kanka to do that. And admittedly, I don't know what became of that project. I haven't followed up on it, but that personally seemed like a very unique use of Kanka to me, and I was quite impressed by at least how he started off doing that. Like it's quite a different way of seeing things, and if he manages to make it work, or if he ever sees this video, I'd love for him to keep me posted on how that went. But yeah, I think other than that, we've pretty much covered everything.
Yeah.
1 hour 38 minutes later.
We've talked a lot.
Spoken a lot, yeah. So, do you have a few final words to say, or should I just wrap this up?
Thanks for joining. Thanks for all the questions. Hope that was Nelistos. Of course, Arc finds all the information. Ryan directly finds
okay.
Okay.
You see, community gets involved. It helps us.
Thank you everyone for joining, for the questions. Like we said at the beginning, we want to try and do this maybe once a month or something.
Yeah.
And do more community events involving you guys.
Going back to what I was saying earlier, we thrive on feedback. So if you want to drop us messages on how you felt this was, if you felt it was too long, too short, just about right, or if you have further questions that you would like us to answer, in a future live stream, we'll keep up the whole Discord posting thing, and we might open it up to a few different mediums as well next time around. But yeah, once again, feedback. What you guys thought, if this is useful at all, and if you'd be up for a second episode in a month or so. I don't know if I call this an episode.
Welcome to the Kanka podcast.
Exactly. So yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in. We're very grateful for your time, and we look forward to seeing you soon. And thank you particularly to Ornstein for writing all the questions in the live stream questions on Discord. That is very appreciated.
Awesome. Have a good one.
Enjoy your day/evening, everyone.
Or morning.
Yeah. Okay. See you guys.
Goodbye. Wrong mouse.
We'll get there.